Andrew Holsinger. Thank you so much to People's Bank and Trust for sponsoring our live stream. Now that we have that out of the way, now we have Andrew Holsinger with us. Andrew Holsinger is an educator out of the University of Illinois Extension Office, and he really does horticulture for the University of Illinois Extension Office. Andrew, do we have you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Amazing. We have you on air right now. How is everything with you right now?
Oh, going well.
Awesome. So, can you tell the people that might not know a little bit about what you do for the University of Illinois Extension?
Well, I give plants uh, a new lease on life sometimes whenever people are in their gardens, landscapes. They don't know what to do with their plants. They're trying to do the best for their trees or shrubs. So I give out research based information to the general public and help people to plant better and grow better and be better whenever it comes to horticulture. So a lot to disseminate and to give out as far as resources and information. And so I'm just here as a good resource for information that if you have questions about plants, need to learn more, then you can reach out to me and check out for events and workshops that I have coming in the future. And just here to share some information about horticulture.
Perfect. And that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm excited to get into those events that we got coming down the road in a little bit here. But we're reading about this spotted lanternfly that I've actually seen been popping up on different surfaces around town, right? So, can you explain a little bit about what this is spreading amongst on the outdoor locations right now?
So it is spreading throughout the United States. There's been kind of isolated places where it's shown up and they've been able to keep it under control, but it's an invasive pest. And so it has been known to start in the Pennsylvania area and on the East Coast. And it's been found in Indiana, I believe, in a couple places, and in Ohio. And so it's getting closer and closer to possibly showing up in Illinois. So we're wanting to be on the lookout to put a stop to this invader because it really does do some concerning effect on some of our specialty crops like grapes and some of our trees that we could see some negative effects from this particular pest. So the key is to do some scouting and to be on the lookout for this particular pest. And it is kind of hard to spot whenever it's in its early stages of being a nymph. It doesn't get the quite the coloration. The early stage, it starts out with a black with white spots, and then it develops in its later stage into a more red coloration. And then as it develops into an adult, it has its wings and its spots, but you really don't see the coloration until it opens its wings. And so you just need to be on the lookout for just different locations where you might find it or the egg masses that it leaves behind.
Wow. Okay. So you mentioned it's moving up from state to state a little bit. Can you explain how that spreads?
Well, the probably the way that it spreads the easiest is by vehicles, and so you know, behind the side mirrors, your bumpers, wheel wells. There's another invasive pest that we've been introduced to, the brown marmorated stink bug, and I bought a camper from northern Illinois and brought it home and doing some repair work and such, and took off the back cover for the tire, and here's all these brown marmorated stink bugs that were living there. And then you looked by where the water heater was. Here's more brown marmorated stink bugs. So they look for places for shelter to overwinter. And so thinking about that, you want to look at where they're likely to be found. And so anywhere on the vehicle, your recreational items, outdoor items. If you have firewood, we don't want to be moving firewood to a great extent because those pests could end up there, and then you could transport those pests to other areas. So something to be concerned about, to be on the lookout for. We have some resource materials, some identification cards, and there's plenty of information out there on this pest. It's just keeping an eye out for it. And one of its primarily favorite trees is the tree of heaven, which is also an invasive kind of tree. And so if you have a tree of heaven, it's recommended for the removal of the tree of heaven to try and slow down this particular pest from reaching Illinois.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned it is invasive. It spreads like wildfire almost. What are some of the plant life that it attacks, or does it only attach to like items that you may own?
No, it does, as I mentioned, grapes are one, and then trees are another. Not only does it attack the tree of heaven, but you may have some ornamental trees in your landscape and the negative part of that is that it feeds on the tree sap and then it leaves behind a residue. It's sometimes known as honeydew. And so then that can cause secondary kind of mold, mildew kind of effects in the landscape. And it just is unsightly, and they can develop in quite a mass on the tree. And so we just want to be on the lookout before it gets here to try and prevent it, slow it down as best we can.
Yeah, totally. Can you explain the life stage a little bit, how it starts and how long does it take until it's a full nymph and they can really start wreaking havoc?
Well, it does take a while for the development. It lays its eggs. They look like often like a cracked kind of mud appearance. So you can find that in various places. They have like kind of a method of scraping those egg masses off. If you find them on a smooth surface, like bricks or stones, plants, you can possibly scrape that egg mass off. But it starts out as a black and white nymph, fairly small. It develops into a later stage of the nymph where it's red, black, and white, and then it continues to develop into the adult, and then it has wings. So it's just a process, as we have found with other insects, that over time, the times to find these particular stages, the early stage nymph, typically from late April to July, the later stage from July to September, and then from July to September, you'll also find the adults. So the actual size of the spotted lanternfly adult is about an inch. So that gives you kind of a reference of how large it can be.
Right. Totally. So right now, if you are just joining us, we are talking to Andrew Holsinger out of the University of Illinois Extension. He is an educator for horticulture. And you mentioned I was going to mess that up, and I just did mess it up. Horticulture, that's a tough one for us radio people. But we're talking about the spotted lanternfly that's kind of become an invader here. So you kind of already mentioned it, but how can we best avoid stopping the spread, to stop the spread of this invader? What can we do to make sure that it's not coming onto our own land?
I think the best potential is to just have an awareness about it and to be looking and scouting on areas that you might find. There's quite an extensive checklist if you get to thinking about packing for the summer and all the things you would need on a trip. It's about the same as whenever you're looking at a checklist for where you would find this particular pest, because it's pretty indifferent on where you may find it. And plant containers, propane tanks, shutters, storage sheds, just anywhere in the landscape, you may have the potential to have the spotted lanternfly and the potential egg masses. So it's very important to be on the lookout and to just keep an awareness of what it looks like. And I know with the brown marmorated stink bug, with the masses that they've had hot spots where they invade into the home, and there's a lot of kind of management of trying to reduce the populations, but we just want to keep the awareness out there so people know what they may encounter and to say something. If you find an insect that you don't think fits in the landscape, we have to be careful. There are beneficial insects that we don't want to harm, so you don't want to just be, applying pesticides uh, on a basis of, well, I'm going to just apply a pesticide. You have to have the knowledge that the pest that you're affecting and try to have a targeted approach with integrated pest management.
That's a really good thing to remember here as you're trying to stop one invader. You don't want to harm the good insects that do really good things for the ecosystems. But we are going to take our first quick little break here. I'm sitting down with Andrew Holsinger out of the University of Illinois Extension Office. He's an educator of horticulture there. You're listening to the WTIM Morning Show live stream brought to you by People's Bank and Trust. We'll be right back.
WTIM. WTIM.
Tim Zalabak back here on the WTIM Information Station Morning Show, live stream brought to you by People's Bank and Trust here in Taylorville. Now, I'm sitting down with Andrew Holsinger, an educator out of the University of Illinois Extension Office, and he has a specialty in horticulture. We talked all about the invasive species of the spotted fly in that first half of the interview. But now we are going to rejoin with Andrew Holsinger to talk about all the great events coming up. Andrew, do we still have you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Beautiful. We still have Andrew on the line here. And you mentioned there is a great new pollinator website up on the Extension Office. Can you explain about that?
Yeah, there's been a collaborative effort from educators and specialists with the University of Illinois Extension to put together a pollinator website. And so the Illinois Pollinator website has gone live and has some plant selection tools and highlight some of your favorite plants and some of your favorite Illinois pollinators. So if you're looking for information on what plants attract butterflies or moths or the bees, then you can check out our latest website on pollinators, and it gives you kind of a nice pictorial view also of a lot of the colorful flowers that you find that attract the pollinators.
Well, that'll be really helpful information for anyone that wants to know how to attract the good insects into their own little ecosystem. Were you behind this website creation? Did you help out with it?
There's some of my photos that have been added, but there's others that have far vast a collection of pollinator plants than what I have. So they have added to the inventory of some of the plants that are on the website.
Yeah, really helpful to have visuals there too. That's a great piece that they've added onto that. So can you name that website for us one more time?
It's IllinoisPollinators.org. And talking about the visuals, they also have some pre-planned garden designs that are available based on your location and where you're putting your pollinators. You may be able to use these designs or adapt them for your use. And so they're there and available, and a lot of pollinator garden design tips on how to place your plants and what to think about whenever you're growing for the pollinators.
Perfect. That's going to be a very helpful website. So we'll move on to the next weekend event that's approaching soon. It's the Armstrong Garden Tour. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, the Armstrong Garden Tour is the garden of Tim and Lene Armstrong. We recently had the Master Gardeners took a visit to the property there in Stonington, and were just amazed at how the variety of conifers and plant material that was there on the property. And so in their excitement, they wanted to plan to share the gardens of Tim and Lene Armstrong. So they've scheduled for this Saturday, June 17th, from 2 to 4 p.m., an opportunity for you to come to the property and to look at this landscape. And so if you are interested in attending, there is a registration that's going to be open through the 16th. You can register at go.illinois.edu/conifer tour and be able to see all these amazing conifers in the context of how they're planted and be able to ask questions.
Perfect. That's going to be a really valuable opportunity for people. Yeah, we also had on some master gardeners I mentioned earlier, Andrew, and they were just amazed by the variety of different plants and hostas and spireas. I was learning these vocabulary. I'm not a horticulture expert, but those are some of the terms I learned from them. But yeah, as for the master gardeners, they are very impressed with what is going on over there. We got a little over a minute left, Andrew. You have some recommendations for us horticulturally?
Well, it has been dry in a lot of locations. I just checked the drought monitor, and luckily for Christian County, there is a little bit of relief in the part of the county to the south. But be sure to water your plants and, trees. If you have mature trees and it has had a dry spell, watering those at least a couple times a month can prevent them from going the way of having problems or even possibly death in the future. So just be vigilant about watering your plants and taking care of them. Also scout for some of our pests that you'll find this time of year, like bagworms are often a common pest that creep up on people and cause problems.
Perfect. That was Andrew Holsinger, an educator out of the University of Illinois Extension Office, and he works with horticulture, and that is our resident horticulture expert here. My name is Tim Zalabak. We are wrapping up the WTIM morning show right now. Thank you to our sponsor, People Bank and Trust of Taylorville. We'll be back with more WTIM morning show tomorrow.
WTIM.